Manx Radio's Update with Beth Espy.
Well, Fastamai, good evening. Welcome to Update. If you've missed the news today, fear not. We'll bring you the highlights in under 30 minutes. Coming up, we'll hear from the MHK leading next week's no confidence vote against the Chief Minister. What's driving that motion and what could it mean for the island's leadership? Also tonight, the issue of assisted dying is back in the political spotlight. We'll hear what happened in Ledgeco today. And Visit Isle of Man announces a new conservation project with a famous marine biologist. We'll also keep an eye on the weather and traffic and travel as well. And if you'd like to get in touch, you can text 166 177 or drop me an email to studio@manxradio.com. As ever, we really would love to hear from you. First, so let's join Lewis for a roundup of today's main news headlines.
Fastamai, Manx Care has confirmed there are no plans to close the Med service at this time. It comes after Chief Minister Alfred Cannon today provided House of Keys members with a document outlining where savings had been considered. One MHK, alarmed at the inclusion of potentially closing Meds on that document, pushed for reassurances that that wouldn't happen. The Treasury Minister says he wants to start a national conversation about the long-term future and sustainability of the Manx National Insurance Fund. With warnings that the fund will be exhausted in just over 20 years' time, government has published a document highlighting the situation and options available. Police say 2 vehicles were involved in a road traffic collision on Derby Road today, with one person suffering minor injuries. The road was closed between Clifton Drive and the Benahara Crossroads for a short while, whilst the vehicles were recovered. The injured person, a passenger, has received treatment in hospital. And 3 candidates will contest a by-election for a seat on Onchan Commissioners next month. Nigel Dobson, Oliver Lockwood and Scott Wilson have all put their names forward for the vacancy. In the latest international news, it's emerged that Chris Cabba, who was shot dead by a police officer, was a core member of a notorious South London gang. Cabba, who was 24, is said to have opened fire against a rival inside a nightclub in August 2022. The officer, Martin Blake, was cleared of his murder yesterday afternoon. Police looking for a missing nurse, Victoria Taylor, have found a body close to where she disappeared. The 34-year-old left her home in Malton, North Yorkshire, on the 30th of September. And Glasgow's been confirmed as the venue for the 2026 Commonwealth Games. Hockey, squash and diving are among the sports which won't feature in the scaled-down event. Those are the headlines. I'll be back with the news at 6 o'clock.
Thanks very much, Lewis. Now the weather brought to you by Manx Glass and Glazing. This evening and tonight, mostly dry, some clear spells, just a small risk of an isolated shower. Light to moderate south to southwest winds and minimum temperatures will be around 9 Celsius. Tomorrow morning, mainly dry, some bright or sunny spells. However, a few passing showers are possible during the afternoon and evening. The south to southwest wind will also freshen during the day and become strong by evening. Top temperatures tomorrow around 14 or 15. Sunset this evening will be at 4 minutes past 6, so just about an hour's time. Sunrise tomorrow morning, 2 minutes past 8.
Manx Glass and Glazing can supply and install single, double and triple glazing. Call 674 573 or visit the showroom on the Snugborough Trading Estate.
Making life easier with Manx Mobility at the top of Summerhill. Are you looking for a stair lift? Look no further with Which Magazine's #1 recommended stair lifts. Now provided by Manx Mobility. Access BDD stair lifts. Call us today on 200 680.
Carpetland, the carpet specialist with the island's best value carpets in stock, often fitted within a week. Furnitureland for 3-piece suites, dining and living room furniture, and a selection of amazing beds. Carpetland and Furnitureland, West Street, Ramsey.
Simply income protection from Kestrel Insurance. A choice of benefits. Simple underwriting and peace of mind with a regular income for up to 2 years if you're unable to work due to illness or injury. Kestrel Insurance is registered with the Isle of Man Financial Services Authority.
Direct cremation is just that, an affordable and simple cremation without all the costs associated with a funeral service. Find out more by visiting directcremation.im or phone Direct Cremations on 478 422.
You're listening to Update here on Manx Radio FM. It's coming up to 5:05. So if you were listening to us last night, you will have heard us break the news that a motion of no confidence has been tabled against Chief Minister Alfred Cannon. That debate is going to take place during next week's sitting of the House of Keys. Arbury, Castletown and Maloo MHK Tim Glover is bringing it forward. He says he doesn't have a name for who should replace Mr Cannon in the top job, but adds that the issue had to be raised and settled once and for all. Lewis asked Mr Glover how he expected the vote to go.
I think there is dissatisfaction, but I think there is also, amongst some of the backbenchers who are dissatisfied, a worry as to who this might let in, particularly Dr. Allinson, who was the other candidate, of course, who stood when we had the original election for the Chief Minister. So there are concerns about this coming through, but I would appeal to my fellow members. Let's have an honest and frank debate about the current situation, and then we move forward whichever way the vote goes.
And what are the main policy points from the Chief Minister that you're unhappy with now? What would you change?
I've said for 3 years that I firmly believe that we need to deal with what we have now and the issues we have now. And I think if we address those, then the population growth will happen organically in itself. But we can't at the moment provide the services that we're wanting to the population that we have. We didn't have in the manifestos population growth. We didn't have increasing income tax as well, and that is taking spend out of the economy. Those are just a few areas, but this is more about Mr Alfred Cannon's leadership.
Tim Glover, MHK, talking to Lewis there. You can find out much more about this story at manxradio.com.
You're listening to the Isle of Man's quintessential daily news and current affairs roundup. Update on Manx Radio.
Now, the Assisted Dying Bill has successfully passed through its first phase of the Legislative Council. The majority of members supported it with an amendment, and Amy Griffiths was there this morning and is with me now. Amy, just remind us what this first stage was all about.
Well, it's called the Principles Stage, which outlines the underlying basis of the bill and allows debate around the wider subject matter of it. It gives members an opportunity to identify any specific concerns before it progresses to the next stage, which is the consideration of clauses.
Now, I understand there is an option to amend the motion at this stage, so essentially the clauses will only be considered once evidence has been heard. That was utilised today.
It was. Diane Kelsey proposed the amendment because of the changing situation in the UK since the last House of Keys debate.
I only really have one specific concern, and that's the developments in our neighbouring jurisdiction since this bill passed from the Keys to the Legislative Council. So that happened on the 23rd of July, and then on the 26th of July, the latest House of Lords Private Members Bill concerned with the same matter received its first reading, and the bill is available on the UK Parliament's website. Then last week, on the 16th of October, in the House of Commons, a separate Private Members Bill was presented and it's passed through its first UK parliamentary stage. In this case, the bill is currently being drafted prior to its planned second reading in less than 6 weeks from now, and that would be on the Friday the 29th of November. Given the closeness of the other jurisdiction in legislative terms and our common understanding of human rights issues in formulating our laws, I believe this Honourable Council should consider these developments at Westminster as material to our scrutiny of the bill before us. To that end, I consider it would be appropriate for us to have an evidence stage should the principles be accepted by us today.
Now, 7 of the 8 members of LegCo supported this amendment. Paul Crane was the only one to oppose it.
And I understand Mr Crane also opposed the progression of the bill to the clauses stage as well.
That's right. He used the sitting to put on record his opposition to the bill. While he is fundamentally against the concept of assisted dying, his main concern today was about coercion. He didn't believe that the bill in its current form goes far enough to stop people from being forced to end their life.
I would expect that even the most ardent supporter of this bill would not wish anyone to be coerced into asking for assisted dying. I think we can take that as a starting assumption. But there is simply no evidence that it's possible for doctors to identify with any certainty that coercion or duress has not been involved. And this is absolutely at the core of concerns over this legislation. If safeguarding against coercion and duress is not in place, and probably not even possible, then the bill should not become law.
Paul Crane there. Now, Rob Mercer MLC, who supports the bill, argued that there were in fact strong deterrents to coercion included in it.
The strict eligibility criteria ensures that assisted dying is only available to those who genuinely want and need it. Psychological assessments and multiple approvals from independent medical professionals will help to mitigate against impulsive or coerced decisions. But there are penalties in this bill, up to and including custody for life, which will apply to anyone found guilty of attempting to cause the death of a terminally ill person by falsifying a declaration. There are penalties for up to 14 years for coercing or pressuring a terminally ill person to make a declaration.
That is Rob Mercer MLC, who was talking in LegCo this morning. So Amy, as expected, a lot of different views. What happens now?
Well, evidence now has to be presented to members to consider before it can progress to the clauses stage. It's hard to say exactly how that's going to go, though. The evidence could be presented in a number of different ways. It could be written and shared to members. It could be a quick conversation, or witnesses could be invited to the chamber to present it. Mrs. Kelsey did suggest calling a number of witnesses from the UK, as well as the mover of the private members bill, Ramsey MHK Alex Allinson. However, she does hope to move to that stage within 2 weeks. But with the Commons bill in the UK due to be drafted within 6 weeks, it may be that members decide to adjourn until then to be able to consider that legislation too.
Amy, thank you very much indeed. You can hear much more about this on both sides on Breakfast on Manx Radio tomorrow morning. 5:11 some business news now, and the Treasury Minister says he wants to start a national conversation about the long-term future and sustainability of the Manx National Insurance Fund. It's as a report warns the fund will be exhausted in just over 20 years' time. Lewis has more details.
The fund, which currently stands at £1.7 billion, is topped up each year by the amount left over after national insurance contributions from working people have paid for the majority of benefits and state pensions. It's been in place since 1948, but life expectancy has since increased, and so people are claiming their state pensions for longer. Over the coming years, Treasury says, forecasts show that there will no longer be a surplus available to pay into the fund. The warning is that instead the situation will reverse, with money needing to be withdrawn from the fund in order to make up a shortfall in NI contributions. Government has outlined some proposals, including replacing the triple lock policy, which increases pensions each year by whichever is the highest figure, 2.5%, CPI inflation or average earnings growth, with another way to increase pensions each year in line with inflation. Any change would only affect those who reach state pension age after the 5th of April 2019. In his budget speech this year, Treasury Minister Alex Allinson did say, "In my view, triple lock is not sustainable in the long term without putting increased pressure on those who pay national insurance, and I don't think that's fair. I will be coming back to this honourable court," he said, "for a full debate on our review of the National Insurance Fund and how we protect it and the livelihoods of those depending on it, whilst ensuring we promote intergenerational fairness." Treasury says it's in the process now of exploring the paths available to address the future funding issues. A document highlighting the situation and options available has been published. You can find a link at manxradio.com.
Thank you very much, Lewis. The stock market report now from Ramsey Crookall, which tells us that UK and European markets fall as investors assessed earnings from bellwether firms across the region, along with the US interest rate outlook. The US dollar clung to a 2.5-month high on expectations that the Federal Reserve will take a measured approach to interest rate cuts, while a too-close-to-call US election campaign did keep those investors on edge. Oil gained after advancing by over 2% as traders continued to track tensions in the Middle East between Israel and Iran, while broader financial markets carried a risk-off tone amid speculation on the path of those interest rates in the US. And gold hit an all-time peak as a mixture of factors, including safe haven demand, spurred by the US election uncertainty and the Middle East war, combined with expectations of further monetary easing, amplified bullion's surge. Well, the commodities then, gold finished up 0.67% at $2,737. Brent stands up 2.41% at $75.60. At the close, the FTSE 100 was off 0.14% at 8,306. The Dow Jones a short time ago, that was trading off 0.16% at 42,864. And the Nasdaq was off 0.11% at 18,519.
I'm running late again. Do you know where I put my car keys?
In the fridge.
Where's my phone?
Under the dog basket.
bye.
You haven't forgotten that we're seeing Ramsey Crookall later?
Oh, no, of course not. 5 p.m, is it?
3:15.
I'll be there.
Life is busy. That's why Ramsey Crookall's team takes time to help you make a mindful investment decision, considering all the options, giving you full control of your financial future. Less stress, more assurance.
Forgot to put my shoes on.
See how we can make your money work for you. Call 717171 or visit ramseycrookall.com. Licensed and regulated by the Isle of Man Financial Services Authority.
Manx Radio Travel, driven by Quayside Tyres and Service Centre.
Well, the good news is nothing on the police page. There were a couple of road closures around the island earlier. They have now reopened, so touch wood, all looking good. All okay down at the steam packet and running to schedule. And at the airport, just a slight delay on the Gatwick flight, so maybe just keep an eye on that one. But otherwise, all looking good. You can find the full list of what's happening roadworks-wise at manxradio.com.
Quayside Tyres and Service Centre with 1 year's free engine warranty from Castrol. Get more with
Quayside. It's 16 minutes past 5. An investigation looking into the sinking of an Isle of Man registered vessel is now complete. The Verity sank following a collision between two ships a year ago this week. Siobhan Fletcher has the details.
The UK Marine Accident Investigation Branch has published its interim report into the incident, as the full investigation report will not be published within 12 months of the accident date. The Verity was heading from Bremen to Immingham in Lincolnshire when it was involved in a crash with the Bahamas-registered bulk carrier Palisi, which had departed from Hamburg on a journey to La Coruna in Spain. 7 people were on board the Manx-registered ship at the time of its sinking at 4:55 a.m. local time. At the time, 2 were rescued from the water, 1 was confirmed to have died, and 4 others remained missing, presumed dead. The interim report states that when Verity was salvaged by German authorities during August and early September this year, a further 2 bodies were recovered. 2 crew members remain unaccounted for. The MAIB says its investigation has considered various aspects of the accident to determine the causes and circumstances of the collision and the sinking of Verity. These include the watch-keeping practices, actions to avoid collision, operational management in the German Bight traffic separation scheme, and damage to Verity. The interim report confirms the investigation is now complete and a draft of the full report is being prepared and will be distributed to stakeholders for a 30-day consultation period in due course.
Siobhan Fletcher reporting. Hoping Bus Vannin would have been able to get school children to and from the annual STEMfest event was a step too far under present circumstances. Now, that was from the Enterprise Minister Tim Johnston following the announcement that this year's edition had been postponed due to the ongoing bus driver shortage. While it's hoped a new date will be confirmed in the next few weeks, Mr Johnston told the House of Keys today the time just wasn't quite right.
A range of alternative options were considered ahead of the final decision to postpone. These included alternative transport arrangements through private sector providers, requesting parents to support in transporting their own children to the event, and the potential to extend the event over an additional day to spread the transport requirements over a longer period. However, ultimately all potential options had significant drawbacks, which have led to inconsistent attendance, opportunity, additional pressure on attending businesses and extra costs. The fairest approach, therefore, was to postpone and plan for a rescheduled event in Q1 2025, which enabled the school year groups to attend within this academic year as originally planned. I was made aware of the situation ahead of the final decision and subsequent announcement.
We're all aware of the challenges with the buses, but once the Minister actually found out the buses were the key reason behind this, did he actually speak to the Infrastructure Minister and try and come up with some solution there?
Yes, ultimately the challenge was the bus situation. It clearly is regrettable. I think the DOI Minister has made it clear some of the challenges that exist at the moment with Bus Vannin and recruitment, and ultimately the Bus Vannin do a fantastic job of getting our children to school every day. It's a major operation, but unfortunately this was a slight step too far just under present circumstances.
That's the Enterprise Minister Tim Johnston speaking in the House of Keys today. Now, Visit Isle of Man has announced a new conservation project in partnership with TV broadcaster and marine biologist Monty Halls. The Big Blue Bag scheme will see participants collect a bag containing sampling equipment to allow them to collect data on marine health. Here's Lewis again.
Data such as microplastic pollution, species diversity, water temperature and coastal debris. The plan, Visit Isle of Man says, is that the collected data can be uploaded to a digital app currently in development, contributing to citizen science to help inform conservation efforts around the world. Monty Halls, you may recognise from his Great Escape series on BBC or My Family and the Galapagos on Channel 4. He's the founder of the Big Blue Bag initiative and is now an official ambassador for Visit Isle of Man. He says the island holds a special place in his heart with its extraordinary coastlines and deep-rooted connection to the sea. He says as the world's first entire nation UNESCO biosphere, the island's commitment to balancing the needs of its communities, economy and environment aligns perfectly with my own values. It's a place where conservation and sustainability are at the forefront, and I'm proud to be working alongside such a forward-thinking destination to promote the protection of our natural world. Here he is in a video shot on Laxey Beach explaining the Big Blue Bag concept.
What's in this bag is 4 very simple sampling protocols that anyone can do. Kids can do it, old people can do it, young people can do it, doesn't matter. Essentially, you don't need any scientific training. You can sample for microplastics, you can do a biodiversity survey, which means looking for gulls, looking for seabirds, because they're indicator species. You can gather some rubbish and see how much you gather in a certain period, and you can take the water temperature. And with all of that data, you can put it into an app, and that means you're contributing to the picture of our ecology right the way round the coastline.
The bags themselves will be tested by the Manx Wildlife Trust over the coming months. Visit Isle of Man CEO Deborah Heather says the Wildlife Trust aims to ensure that the sampling protocols are applicable to all ages and experience, using their unique understanding of the environmental challenges facing the Isle of Man and the wider world to shape the system. The Big Blue Bag will officially launch in spring 2025.
Thank you, Lewis. And as ever, find out more at manxradio.com. 22 minutes past 5. The island-based ultra-distance athlete Nikki Arthur says she's mega proud to have been nominated for Sportswoman of the Year in the 2024 Scottish Women in Sports Awards. She tells us now what it was like to get that news that she was a finalist and the role the Isle of Man has played in her sporting career so far.
Yeah, it was just a surprise more than anything. It's just, you know, like I don't have like a tie to sort of Scottish sport other than the fact that I am Scottish. You know, obviously I run for the Manx Trail Runners and everything's through England Athletics and things like that. And yeah, it was just really surprising, really, really nice to be nominated and to make it through to the finals. I'm really, really pleased. Like the other 2 finalists are of such an incredibly high standard as well.
Year after year, Scotland producing fantastic athletes that go on to do great things. To be among those in the last year in particular as well, that must fill you with a sense of pride.
Yeah, so much so. Like the Beth Potter, the triathlete, won this award this time last year. So just gives you an idea of the sort of people that my name's sort of getting spoken about amongst, you know, like Olympians and Paralympians. And not that I'm saying that I'm anywhere close to that, but to be even uttered, like I said, is really, really lovely. It's really nice, and I do feel mega proud. And I love the Isle of Man. But Scotland is my own country as well, and it just feels really nice to have a bit of recognition there as well.
In terms of not just the sporting community, but also just for you personally as a place to train and develop and just to live your life, how big a part do you think the Isle of Man's played in that?
Absolutely huge. I mean, I've recently been in schools sort of talking about working with world-class athletes. Part of my talk is about how the Isle of Man has brought me to where I am today. When I moved over to the Isle of Man, the community, regardless of what sport it's in, because I've been in a few sports since I've got over here, it's just been amazing, and it's got such a supportive environment, and I wouldn't be where I am today, I don't think, if I hadn't moved to the Isle of Man. And I've said that to the Manx Trail Runners, they're my club, and yeah, at the Isle of Man I've got so much to thank for.
That is Nikki Arthur. That awards ceremony will take place on Friday, the 1st of November. So we wish her all the very, very best. Sports editor Rob Pritchard is here now. Tell you what, Nick, I was going to say I taught Nikki everything she needed to know about ultra distance, and then it just went wrong from the start. So just move on.
Very well. Well, one of the big pieces of news elsewhere this morning was that Glasgow was officially confirmed as the host for the 2026 Commonwealth Games. Announcing the news today, the Commonwealth Games Federation says the event will take place in the Scottish city from the 23rd of July to the 2nd of August 2026. The Games will be made up of 10 sports, including 6 parasports, which will be held across 4 venues. Well, the sports are track and field athletics, swimming, artistic gymnastics, track cycling, netball, weightlifting and powerlifting, boxing, judo, bowls and 3v3 basketball and wheelchair basketball. It's not yet clear whether the athletics section will include the marathons, in which the Isle of Man had 2 athletes, Ollie Lockley and Sarah Webster, competing in the last event in Birmingham in 2022. Road cycling, such as road races or time trials, also don't appear in the list. The Isle of Man had 5 strong men's and women's squads involved in the road races last time out. And badminton, in which the Manx side had Jess Lee taking part in it 2 years ago, is another sport which has been omitted. Birmingham saw the Isle of Man take its largest ever Commonwealth Games squad with 34 athletes in total across 8 disciplines. 2024 Isle of Man Senior TT winner Davy Todd will join FHO Racing for next month's Macau Grand Prix. The Saltburn rider is one of 4 competitors who will represent Feiho's team at the meeting, along with Peter Hickman, Michael Rutter and Craig Neve. The team itself is describing 2024 British Superstock champion Todd as a late addition who FHO are helping out after his ride for this year's Macau Grand Prix unfortunately fell through. And as the international cycling season starts to draw to a close, the Isle of Man had one of its elite riders in action over the weekend. Sam Brand was out in Asia for Team Novo Nordisk at the Japan Cup one-day race on Sunday. He managed to help one of his teammates into the UCI points, with David Lozano finishing 33rd.
Thank you very much indeed, Rob. Some big news there about the Commonwealth Games. There's likely to be quite a bit of reaction, I imagine, over the next couple of days to that.
You would imagine, and we have been speaking to as well the chef de mission from the 2022 Games, Erica Bellhouse. That'll be live on Manx Radio's website very soon. And there seems to still be a lot of questions about some of the finer details. So some of the questions around the track and field events. What track and field events could we have? Swimming? What disciplines could we have? Quite simply, we don't know at this stage, and there's still a lot to figure out there. But for some sports, some big clarity and something to get excited about. But naturally, on the other side of things, there will be some sports and some athletes who will be very disappointed.
Yeah, certainly. Thank you very much indeed, Rob. We will bring you all that reaction as we get it here on Manx Radio. But that is pretty much all from Update this evening. Thank you very much indeed for your company. If you'd like to hear about what goes on in our Emergency Services Joint Control Room, then do stay tuned. We've got a special episode of Island Live tonight, hearing from the people who respond to our calls on a daily basis, because this week is International Control Room Week. Every day on Breakfast, we're hearing from a different aspect of the Emergency Services Joint Control Room. There's much more on the website and on social media as well. So that programme with Amy Griffiths coming up very, very shortly. Then after that, it's Greatest Hits from 6 with Jason Moore. The Folk Show with John Barker is at 9 p.m. And then Dave Moore will be with you from 10 with After Hours. Looking out the window, it is a lovely evening. Probably make the most of it. We do expect the rain is going to be arriving at some point later on in the week. So whatever you're up to tonight, have a great one, and we'll talk to you again on Update at the same time tomorrow.